Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Magic Morning Wood. Hopefully, you're doing well wherever you are, however you're watching this. And as always, my name's Ron, and with me is
It's me, Clive. And yes, we wish you well, unless of course you're an asshole, in which we
yeah,
wish you not well.
then
Yeah.
nobody likes it. So, all right. So, yeah. Anyway, as usual, we'll get ready to jump right into it. We talk movies, and here in the Magic Morning Wood, and our algorithm's on, and we are reacting to what was it called? The Into the Wild. Into the
Yes,
Wild.
Ernest goes to camp.
Right, yeah, just goes to camp, yeah, Into the Wild, yeah, which was the Sean Penn movie we talked about last time,
Hmm.
and yeah, and so we both chose reactions to this movie. Can be a loose reaction, can be some sort of loose connection, can be strong, based on that. So I went through one of the actresses in the movie. I went through Catherine Keener. Catherine Keener, the actress Catherine Keener, who is always fun to watch. I always like Catherine Keener. I always like everything that she's quite solid in everything she's in.
Yeah, she's got I think well, she's obviously a very good actress, but she does have quite good comic timing as well, right?
Mm.
But she
Yeah,
can
I think she
also
does.
do straight up drama and yeah.
Sure, yeah, she does drama and comedy, so she's a good actor, and so yeah. So I went through Catherine Keener's filmography, and she has like a lot of really interesting movies. Like I was like, oh, I could do that one, I could do that one. There's a lot of really cool. She has a really varied range and things, and many interesting kind of movies. But I decided to settle on the movie that she did in the '90s, which is one that I've been kind of planning to do on here for a while, but hadn't really found a link yet. So it was perfect timing. It's the '95 movie Living in Oblivion.
Yes, Living in Oblivion from 1994, that's right.
1995, and the written and directed by
Minus
Tom.
one. Yeah.
Sorry, what?
No, go ahead, carry on.
Yeah, here. Yeah, released July 21st, 1995. So
January.
July 21st is right here on IMDb. Have it right in front of
Oh,
me.
look at the proper. Go to the release dates. Don't just look at.
July 21st in the US, July 21st, 1995.
I'm looking
Anyway,
this up again. Carry on.
anyway, so it was Living in Oblivion, released in the mid 90s. And I guess because as much as people love us arguing about this stupid shit,
January 20th, 1995 at
it's
the
right here.
Sundance
January
Film
21st,
Festival.
1995. See, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So they made it in 20 days, did they?
It was released in July 20,
No,
1995.
January, I just said.
No, July. It says right here. You're
Go
looking
to
at it.
go to release dates.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
And
Living
what's at
Oblivion.
the top?
Release date,
United
July
States.
21st, 1995.
Sundance Film
It was released at Sundance in the 20th, but it was actually released for a wild release in July.
So what do you think they showed at Sundance? Do you think they just showed some people going "Boo" at the screen? They showed the film, right? It was made
No, that's
by
just
then.
you. No, yes, but the movie was released in 1995, so therefore it is a 1995 movie.
So it was still in captivity, you're saying, when it was showing at Sundance. It's not a release. It wasn't
Well, I'm
made.
just saying. I'm saying that the date that they have here is the date that it's widely released in the U.S.
Right.
Right?
But it
Yes.
was first
And
screened
as well, the release date is
February.
still, even if it is January, it's still 1995. So
But it wasn't altered between Sundance and the release, right? I don't think.
uh I don't know. I'm just saying I just looked up release date and it said right here, July 21st. And so July 21st was yeah, in the United States.
It
Yeah.
played Sundance, Berlin, New York, USA.
But then it was also released in Russia in September. So I mean it's September 2001. So it's not a 2001 movie.
But that's later. You understand how time works, right?
But yeah, I know. So I'm saying the first one was still in 1995. Anyway, this really is not interesting for anyone, not even for me. So anyway, the movie is called Living in Oblivion,
Oh,
and
this
it's
1994 film, yeah. Carry on. I've heard of it.
written and directed by Tom DeCillo or Cilio. Is there an either?
I'm not sure if it's DeCillo or Dicillo. I think it's Dicillo. I've heard Dicillo.
Chillo or
Yeah.
DiCillo, yeah, something like that. Okay. Anyway, yes, and who is of who did what else did he do? Johnny Suede, he done that
Yeah.
before, which
With Brad
I
Pitt.
don't think I don't think I've ever seen that. Now he does mostly TV, so it's that. So, anyway, and starring Steve Buscemi and Catherine Keener, Dermot Mulroney, James LeGros, Peter Dinklage, one of his first roles, which is fun to see him, and some other people who maybe I didn't really recognize. So maybe haven't done that much since then.
Really, the one person I didn't recognize, but it's quite interesting to note who he is. So, you know, the driver character
Ah,
sometimes occasionally talks to people in the back seat.
Jarmusch,
Yes, that's Jim Jarmusch's brother.
brother. Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah. So anyway, this is it's essentially a behind the scenes movie about like making a movie. So it's like a independent film. It's an independent film about making an independent film, right? And so
Yeah.
the Steve Buscemi is the director, and he's trying to get this movie made, and all sorts of shit is hitting the fan, and everything keeps going wrong, and yeah, and usually quite in a comedic way, right? I think it's meant, yeah, it's quite, I think it was still quite funny. I still thought it was quite funny, a lot of things. And it's essentially kind of three-part movies, where I guess they had originally made the first part as almost a short. It was like a 35-minute short, and which was in it was, well, it's half black and white, half color. The
Right.
real life is black and white, and then when it flips to the filming the movie, it changes to color. And so it's about 35 minutes, and they shopped it around, and no one apparently was interested in 35-minute shorts because it's a little too long for short film
Right.
festivals, but too short, obviously, for features. So they weren't really sure what to do with it. And then he sort of started workshopping it with the rest of the actors. And then they ended up coming up with the idea of doing two extra parts, which was, it ends up being that at the end of the first scene, the first part, Steve Buscemi wakes up and it was all a dream. And then it becomes the next part. And then a totally different movie, the same actors, same characters. And then that one was a dream by Catherine Keener. Was that right? Yeah, it was her dream.
Yeah, it's difficult to do.
Yeah.
After a certain point, they kind of they slightly lose the rigor of the format, don't they? And just
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
do whatever they want. But yeah, it
Sure. Yeah.
starts off like, yeah, it's I suppose you could almost argue it's a kind of the Rashomon kind of thing adjacent, right? Where it's not exactly the same event from different angles, but it's like what potentially might happen from different points of view, right?
Yeah, but it's of course there are different movies, right? So it's a different kind of
Seems to
situation.
be, yeah. I don't see how
Well, no,
they
it
would
is
be.
definitely a different movie, right? Because one was like they're totally different genres most of the time, right? So
I
there's
guess, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. They all seem to be shooting it in the same place, though, right? It's the same place they're shooting, and I've no idea what the film. If it is a film with lots of different kind of varying degrees, or
well, I think the idea is that they're different movies and different things, because even like for example, the old lady who plays in the first part, who plays like the
yes,
mother in the movie, is actually his real mother. It shows up in the third part, and so yeah,
yes.
so I
But
don't I
then
don't think
again,
that's.
but if the first part is a dream, then
But he did mention it in the second part where he wakes up and he goes, "Oh, there was." No, he mentioned it later that he kind of is like, "Oh, yeah, there was you. I was filming. We were filming a movie, but it was you and some lady, and he didn't recognize her at the time. But then it turns out that in the third part that it's his
right.
mom. So I think it's all kind of meant to be a little bit dreamy and not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
necessarily
I don't
connected.
think it's cut and dry. Like the James the Gross character as well is in one, and he's the big main actor, but then they do talk about him supposed to having been on set in another version, but he's ill, and so
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all
So
very kind of yeah, it doesn't really matter, I don't think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway, the point is it's sort of like a comedy of errors in terms of like trying to get this thing up and running, and lots of, things keep happening, like the lights fall, and the actor, Jim LeGros, comes in the second part of it, and he's like really kind of full of himself, and has all these like what he thinks are like, he's trying to be creative and have all the ideas, but then he just keeps screwing up the shots, and stuff like that. So it's he's quite fun to watch in this way. And then they've got like some behind the scenes drama where like the cameraman, played by Dermot Mulroney with an eye patch, is like at one part not, and the first part not, but then later on he's in a relationship with, I guess she's the AD, I guess, the assistant director, played by
Daniel Van Zernak, right? There's one
Nick,
guy,
yeah. And then they break up, and and then he's so yeah. Anyway, there's it's kind of hard to explain the set storyline of this, but basically it's essentially like a trying to get something done. It's the thing it connects mostly to me is that, as you might not know this, but it's a pretty famous theater piece, especially for people in the theater. They know this. It's a one act play called The Actor's Nightmare,
okay.
By a writer named Christopher Durang, who did some film. And Christopher Durang is one of my favorite playwrights, and he wrote a pretty famous play called The Actor's Nightmare, which is not in itself an original idea, but it's based on the whole idea of actors always have kind of like anxiety dreams before they go on stage, I don't know the script, or what play is this, or where's my, I have no pants on, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's the same kind of idea that these are sort of meant to be, I guess, anxiety dreams, and trying to everything that could go wrong does, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yes, and also born out of Tom Chiller's frustration at trying to make what turned out to be his next film, right? Box of Moonlight, after Johnny Swade tried to get Box of Moonlight made. And then the one thing I appreciated most about this, actually, I suppose, is his kind of, one of the things the film is about is how it's amazing that anything actually gets made at all.
It's made. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so,
especially independent stuff, right? So
yeah,
so it's them kind of all, so it is very meta, because like it looks like it was actually difficult to get this film made until we kind of got together, and so it was
it kind of sets the tone. That first sequence really sets the tone, because it's them trying to pull off this, not but slightly elaborate one take, and there's always like the boom mic goes in.
It goes in,
or there's a beeping noise, or someone goes up on their lines, or there's always some little thing that prevents them from getting it. And then of course the director has to eventually do the thing he doesn't want to do, and cut up his one big long take into different edits and stuff like that, right? Which is anyone who's ever tried to make a film will find this stuff really. I think that's when the film's strong.
But I don't think it's only like relevant for people who've tried to make a film. I think everyone can, anyone who's tried to do something, that was maybe challenging or difficult, or required a lot of planning, and then just have it kind of all fall through. Best laid plans of mice and men kind of idea, right?
So but it particularly spoke to me just because I have tried to make some stuff, and it was like that. That's when the movie was strongest for me, I think, was that opening first bit. Before it cuts, and then like, just because they do something which is quite difficult to do, which is basically show the same thing again and again and again without it getting repetitive. And they managed to build in quite a lot of tension. It's funny. It's like that first sequence is I don't know how long it lasts, 15-20 minutes or something, is the best bit.
I think it's like 35. That was the short film, right?
I don't think it's that long, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Before Steve Buscemi starts shouting.
Oh, before he starts shouting. I thought you meant the whole first section.
Yeah, well, the first, the when they're trying to get the until he starts shouting at all the crew and stuff, and then he wakes up like that.
Right. Well, that was the first film that they shot around. They said it was 35 minutes. I think
they must have edited it down a little bit, because I don't think it ran that long in the film. But it's close. But it's that's really strong. But the weird thing, it's like not necessarily the funniest part of the film. Like, it's not hilarious, but it's really well done. Like, and then when because it's very sharp in a way, like it's very realistic. It's not broad. It's not playing the gags. It just
Mm.
I thought the rigor of that opening scene was really, really, really good. And the rest of the film is fine, but when it opens out and it gets more broadly comedic then, doesn't it? Like
Mm.
there's more
Yeah, that's true.
gags. That stuff is less effective. Like it's fine. It's you know, it's quite funny now and again. Some bits are quite funny. Peter Dinklage is funny.
Mm.
But that opening scene I thought was really quite impressive.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the second two parts eventually started to feel a little bit like what they were, which was kind of tack-ons, right?
Yeah.
That it was sort of,
Yeah.
that it was that this first part was the movie, and then the rest of it is just trying to figure out how to extend it to a feature length,
Yeah.
right? Which, and they were still good, but yeah, I agree that they weren't quite as strong as the first part as
Yeah,
well,
it
right?
probably should have stayed. I mean, I understand why they did it for commercial reasons, but it should, like, for instance, I don't like they throw in like a bit of a like a romance in there as well between Buscemi's character and Catherine Keener's, and yeah, I didn't really
Yeah,
need that, you know.
yeah.
But so I had never seen this film before, actually. It was one of those 90s indie darling films that I managed to miss somehow back in the day.
So, what'd you think this time on the first?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I mean, I can see why it's held in such high regard by people who saw it when it was new, because some people really love this film, right? Like they really rate this extremely highly as one of the, you know, the better films of the era and its type, right? And it's not all that, I didn't think, but no, I generally, like I said, generally favorable towards it. I liked it, but it's definitely it definitely loses focus when it starts to become more kind of gag based, you know. And some of the gags work; they're pretty good. Peter Dinklage's whole thing is really funny, I have to say. Have you ever had a dream with a dwarf in it? I'm a dwarf, and I've never had a dream with a dwarf in it. Like that stuff's spot on, and it's clearly, you know, targeting, you know, I think it's specifically it's David Lynch and Twin Peaks. I think is I think is what it's going for there. But it's a good bit.
When did Twin Peaks? When was that? Early 90s, or was that?
Yeah, before this. Yeah,
yeah, before that.
Fire Walk with Me would have been before this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I actually really liked James LeGros's part too. I thought that was
actually, yeah.
I thought he was really spot on. It was really, really good.
Yeah,
so.
No, he was funny considering he falls into that side category we've talked about before. The Curse of Giovanni Ribisi. There is a Curse of James LeGros thing. The other one is Randy Quaid, right? Like they often seem to star in films that are almost good, and like when I'm interested in a film and I look down the cast and then I see James LeGros, I'm like, I might not watch it. Not because I don't like James LeGros, but he just has a habit of being in films that aren't quite as good as they should be. Like interesting projects, but they don't quite reach.
Because I first discovered James LeGros through this movie, and now I'm the exact opposite, because I liked him so much in this movie that he's such a standout in this movie that I feel like every time I see him, it's like, oh, James LeGros, I think must be good, because I connect him with this movie. So
yeah, no, he is in some good stuff. He's in that movie. I think he's in that 11 to 45, right? I think he's in that as well. I remember liking that same time period. But no, he is funny. I wonder if he's playing Brad Pitt.
Well, he's not. So you didn't. I guess you didn't watch the documentary that I sent you.
I watched about 5-10 minutes of it, and then I kind of had enough of it.
So well, actually, Tom DeSillo apparently is mortified that people think
it's Brad Pitt.
That is Brad Pitt, because actually Brad Pitt is a friend of his and was actually was going to play that part first. But apparently he had a scheduling conflict and couldn't do it, so that's why. And James LeGros, the story was that like that Brad Pitt had to drop out, and so he was on Tom DeSillo was on the phone with Catherine Keener, and James LeGros was like walking past her window, and then she just stuck her head out and said, "Hey, James, you want to be in a movie?" And he was like, "Okay." and that's actually how James Earl Jones got cast. So, but he wasn't. So, but apparently, he's playing an unnamed Hollywood star that James Earl Jones had just worked with. But
Okay.
they do mention briefly, what's his face?
Can I guess before you say it? Because the
Yeah,
only thing I was guessing, the other thing I was thinking was Val Kilmer.
no, not
Oh,
well. That's not what it could be, but that's not who they mentioned. They mentioned it was what's his name? Ghost.
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze.
Oh, really?
Apparently that's who it was based on. That this,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So that apparently that's they mentioned that in kind of in passing in that documentary. So it's not really blatantly said, or he said it might be like an amalgam of kind of, general vain movie star guys kind of thing, but that he had apparently just finished working with Patrick Swayze, so that it was kind of basically made based on him. But yeah, I think, but he does kind of look like Brad Pitt in this movie a little bit, like early kind
Yes.
of
Yeah.
90s Brad Pitt. So that's why I think that's why people think it is. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
Tom
think as
Tom
well,
Cruise is very adamant. It is not Brad Pitt. Is not meant to be Brad
I
Pitt.
think
That's
that dog James LeGros at this point in his career anyway, that he was considered a bit of a bargain basement Brad Pitt, I think.
Well, he's definitely gone the other way. He's definitely doesn't look anything like Brad Pitt now. Like
Hmm.
he's certainly kind of, yeah, he's certainly has a style all to his own now.
Yeah, the other bit that did make me laugh out loud, I thought was a genuine good gag, was when Steve Buscemi has a dream sequence when he's imagining winning an award, and the award is for best film ever made by a human being. That was
Being,
quite
yes.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like vaguely favorable. I quite like it. I get it. It's not that for me, but it may have been if I'd have seen it back in '94. And so anyway, more to the point, because you saw this when it was new, and how was it then, and how was it now?
Well, again, like in the 90s when I saw this, it was I mean I hadn't it was quite good. I remember having like a really favorable opinion of it at the time. I remember just watching it like, wow, that was really good at the time.
Hmm.
But then just kind of it always kind of staying in my mind as a movie that I really enjoyed. But most of the details kind of fell away from me, other than I remember James LeGros specifically
Hmm.
and Steve Buscemi from this, who became kind of like standouts for me. And I remember like trying to again, as I said, when I would see James LeGros in another movie, I'd say, oh, there's from,
Hmm.
and of course, Steve Buscemi became a big favorite around that time after like Fargo and everything too, right? So, and but yeah, I think it generally held up. I mean, yeah, I could see why people liked it. It wasn't a perfect movie.
Hmm.
It definitely had its flaws, and it, could have been better other places. And watching the doc with Tom DeSillo's he's kind of took himself a little too seriously,
That's why
which
I didn't finish
yeah,
the
yeah,
talk.
yeah. So I was like, it kind of actually made my opinion of the movie kind of go down a little bit based on him, because
Yeah,
I thought it was a good movie. It was very
yeah,
quite
but
funny, but he's like a real like
he's
he
pretty big
doesn't
on
look like
himself, isn't he?
yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't really look like he has much of a sense of humor about anything.
No,
So
no, no.
considering it's a comedy movie, so
Yeah, there were
yeah,
a few bits there where he was like, "Well, the first glimmer that this masterpiece came into
mm,
being was
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So he was a little off-putting himself. So I don't know if he's like that normally, if that's how he was that day. Who knows? But yeah, but I still thought it was good. I laughed out loud several times, and it was good to see. I totally forgotten Peter Dinklage was in this too, and I really enjoyed seeing him
right.
again. And yeah. Yeah.
But Peter Dinklage would not have been a name, right?
No,
I
he
think
wasn't.
it
Yeah,
was
he
like
was
his
like one of
second
yeah.
film or something, right?
Sure, yeah, something like that. So yeah, but I totally forgotten that. Yeah, and I was like, oh, Peter Dinklage is there. Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, so yeah, he wasn't. Um,
Well, it's
yeah, he was.
interesting as well because you see like between whatever his first film was, when he's credited as circus performer or something, and then
Mhm.
this, and then his kind of slow but steady kind of rise to becoming a star very much on his own terms,
Mhm.
right? And it's quite interesting, even though it's just a good gag as well. You get the sense that he's he stuck to his guns like pretty early, like he's like, yeah, like fuck you, I'm not gonna be the weird dwarf in your dream sequence. Like
Yeah. Well,
I'm
I
like
mean,
a
yeah, but he is.
proper
I remember,
you know.
yeah, I remember reading another interview with him, and that's basically that's him all the time. Like that's what he is like,
Yeah,
right? And he's remember he was talking about like it's like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna play like a an adjective in Snow White, you know what I mean? Like, so
right,
like yeah, so he's like, I'm an actor. So he says some of his favorite roles were roles that weren't even meant to be dwarfs, but just happened to be.
right,
So he's
right,
he's been in a couple of movies like that too. So yeah,
right.
so yeah, I mean, and again, sure enough, he is properly a great actor, right? So I think
Yeah, no, no, he
good
is.
on
Yeah,
him. Glad he's getting some stuff. So he's so and that he became kind of like after Warwick Davis, the premier dwarf actor, I guess, right? So yeah,
right, right. And a much better actor.
yeah, well, yeah, definitely better than Warwick, but I mean, the um most famous, I guess, most
Yeah, but what I mean, I suppose
main.
he might slightly bridle at that, because I think the whole point is that he's famous for being an actor as opposed to for being a little person actor, right?
Right, sure,
I
yeah.
think is the goal, right?
Mm.
And I think he's pretty much
I think
aimed at
also
it,
the
right?
difference is that Warwick Davis was in popular movies, not necessarily because of him, but because the movies were popular. Versus, I think Peter Dinklage is himself just good, right? So by
Yeah,
himself.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
same kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, okay, there we go. So Living in Oblivion is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, it was good.
Pretty,
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I laughed.
pretty,
Pretty,
pretty.
pretty good.
Okay, so for my choice, we go back 18, not 19 years previously to 1976, and we're talking Kings of the Road. Uh, and my way here was, well, I suppose twofold. I guess Into the Wild, as well as being other things, was a road movie. So I chose another road movie, and it also has on the soundtrack King of the Road, the hit Roger Miller song, as does this film. So that's it. That's the connection. And I was thinking about road movies. I'm a big road movie fan. Are you a road movie guy, Ron?
No.
Ah, you hate roads.
Actually, I was gonna get to this later, but yeah, actually, I would say of all movie genres, road movies probably my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I hate road movies with few exceptions. With a
Wow,
few exceptions, yeah. They drive me nuts. Yeah.
that's fascinating.
Yeah, I just the meandering and navel gazing and the faux philosophical like just bullshit and the journey, not the destination. I just find it just
Oh,
I have very little patience for it.
you
So
must have loved this film then. Um,
no, did not.
but no, I'm a big fan of the road movie. For exactly the same reasons that you're not, I guess. I do like, yeah, and I like how it's not really a genre. It's kind of cuts across genres, right? So you can have
Like a
you
subgenre.
yeah, well, you can have a drama. It's a road movie. You can have a car chase. I mean, you could argue that like the Smokey and the Bandit films are road movies, right? They go from A to B, and there's a certain amount. The Mad Max movies are road
Mm,
movies, but they're action thrillers as well. And
mm.
I just like there's something about it's fascinating to me that that you take against them quite well. Because for me, there's something about some characters just going out and getting to know each other, and there's like a big kind of canvas, I guess, as the background. That's kind of catnip for me.
Mm.
There's I've always since I first heard of road movies before I even saw one. I think I just liked the concept of the road movie like immediately. And then I saw some and I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is like if I had the means of making a feature film, I would probably make a road movie.
Mm.
Um, which I know you'd be first in line to see, Ron.
I would just because it was yours, but
Oh,
yeah.
that's sweet.
So
Um,
I could laugh at it and say,
right,
"Oh shit."
right. And we could argue about what year it was released as well. So as road movies go, this is considered a very high watermark among road movie aficionados. Wim Wenders' 1976 film Kings of the Road is up there, right? And it's one I'd never actually seen before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hadn't seen this before, even though I like some of Wim Wenders' other films. For instance, we did previously on the show, we did The American Friend.
Mhm.
There's another kind of road movie he made before this, the goalie's anxiety at the penalty kick. I really like that. Paris, Texas, of course, like everyone in the world likes Paris, Texas, but it is a great film. But for some reason, I'd never got round to this one before, and it was high on my list of want to sees. So I thought, oh, here's the perfect opportunity, and not knowing in advance of your extreme dislike of road movies, I have to say, I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, I know you were. I was thinking like I don't think I've ever told him that I actively dislike road movies for the most part.
Right, right. No, that I find that kind of yeah, I find that fascinating because I like road movies so much. It's almost like someone saying to me like, I fucking hate food, or like I find it
Food.
perplexing. But there we go. One of the reasons you're so cute and lovable, Ron, is your extreme
Unfortunately.
misanthropy about road movies. Yeah, so yeah, well, there's not much to the plot. A film
That's for sure.
projectionist, as played by Rudiger Volger. He's kind of hanging out, and then one day, Hans Zischler.
Figuratively and literally.
Yes, yeah, he's got his knob out at the beginning. Nice little extra. I know you'd have enjoyed that.
I particularly enjoyed them taking the crap. That was
Right. Yes, another haunting moment. And a guy just drives his car into a lake, right? He's clearly having some sort of emotional problems, and they start hanging out. And Volga's job is I think he goes around fixing film projectors, I think is what he does, right? So they take a road trip, kind of up and down. It's the border with East Germany, apparently, and yeah, they have a bit of a bromance, I guess. A couple of lonely guys, and yeah, no, that is the framework for, and Ron is right. It's not a film that builds to anything, right? It is a meandering, and yeah, it is, like you say, it's the journey, not the destination, etc. Insert your own cliche here, but that is very much what the road movie is, right? Like if you're not into that, then clearly you're not going to be enjoying Kings of the Road.
sure.
So I suppose we should get this out the way. Quite how much did you hate Kings of the Road, Ron? Or were there glimmers of joy in there?
Quite a lot. Quite a lot. I hated it.
It's long as well.
Yeah.
It's long as well.
Fuck.
3 hours long, yeah.
Yeah, you got to be kidding me with this 3 hours. Bullshit. I'd say I had high hopes from the first scene because the beginning was quite interesting with him driving to the lake, and I was like, oh, this might be something okay, even though I was going in, trepidatiously with knowing that I generally don't like this type of movie.
Right.
So, add in that it's like a 70s German movie that's black and white and 3 hours long, and there's almost no dialogue, and I was like, oh,
But as soon as you saw that schlong, you're like, oh, I might enjoy this. You perked up a little bit.
well, yeah, it was more like I thought maybe there might be something to it, but yeah, I quickly realized that was not true, and yeah, it was just him fixing some projections and them meeting a bunch of people and sometimes talking, most of the time not. Just it was I would say it's a beautiful film. The cinematography is great.
Yeah, Robbie Mueller.
Yeah, it looks really nice. But yeah, it was. I had to watch this in several short pieces.
Oh,
because,
okay.
Yeah, I had to watch it like I watched like 50 minutes and I was like, okay, I can't watch anymore.
Wow, it's interesting because I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of it's kind of missing the point as well. Like I understand why you did it,
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. It was like that or claw my eyes out. Like
but
it was.
that's part of,
I understand it's supposed to be like the whole thing, but yeah,
yeah,
I just it was yeah, I couldn't do it.
like
So
boredom is kind of like baked in. You're kind of supposed to be
it
bored,
was like
right?
more than boredom. Boredom. It was just like it was like
Really?
angry boredom, and it was
Wow.
just yeah, it was yeah. I just yeah, I
You can't you
hated
can't
this movie. Like it might as well have been like Valentine's Day.
you
it was
can't.
yeah. I really fucking hated this movie.
That's
Really
interesting. That's interesting.
vehemently.
So
Yeah.
so it's not even like you can't. This is fascinating.
What it was just what a waste of life. What a waste of my
Just
life.
it's fascinating to me that so you so for instance it's like I so the way I watched the film I imagine that people who like this film then let's put it
Mm,
that, and to be fair I will say I don't think it's quite the masterpiece that some people think it is.
mm,
I will say that up front.
okay.
I was not disappointed exactly because I did quite like it, but I was expecting something. I didn't like this as much as Goalies because I did Penalty Kick or
Mm,
American Friend or other Wim Wenders films. I have to admit it wasn't quite the all-time Wim Wenders film that I think some people
sure.
think it is. But um, being broadly in the camp of people who like films like this, like my approach to a film like this, I suppose, is there's like a certain switch goes off or something, and it's
Mm,
just you just kind of I don't know, you stop expecting you stop expecting something to happen in the way of a conventional narrative, and you just kind of I don't know, it's kind of like sitting back at the beach or something, or and you just kind of let it play out, and you might even I mean you could have
I
done
don't like to do that either.
something else while what
I don't like to just sit on the beach and look at nothing too either though.
like you never like to let your mind drift at all.
No.
You like to
There's
keep your mind occupied at
that
all
way
times.
that way is danger. No, I just have no patience for this type of movie. And yes, this was I guess you know, prototypical movie of this type, which is like everything that I hate about these movies just amped up to 11. Or like it was just fingernails on a chalkboard for me, this whole
Um,
fucking thing. Yeah.
I mean, I understand. Like, I can get on board. Like, I can understand. Like, when you were saying the thing about the something having like a faux kind of philosophical bent or something like that to it. I think that's what I appreciate about this film is it doesn't. It at least it doesn't have that element, right?
Mm.
At least for me, it doesn't.
Well,
I don't. It doesn't
I
have
disagree.
people
I think it
having
does. I
really.
think it does. It just doesn't, it doesn't say it overtly and it doesn't really, but I think it does, right? So I think
It
it
doesn't have
thinks,
people having long pontificating conversations about the
yeah,
nature.
they do. They had lots of, there's several where they're talking about, I don't know, they were talking about, I don't know, I forget what bullshit was, but it was, I remember looking like, oh, here's the philosophical conversation. Here's
Well, no,
one of
that's
those.
right. Because I don't think they were. I think they were
They
just.
were. I remember I earmarked it. I was like, okay, here's the philosophical conversation. Here's the token conversation. Here's the token weird guy. Here's the token. It was
But aren't
just
they just
anyway.
talking crap? I think they're just talking crap. Like that's. I didn't think it was supposed to be meaningful. Like I feel as if they're always striving to say something meaningful, but they're not. And kind of that's the point that they can't put together a meaningful. Like they're trying every now and again, but then they just end up kind of fucking about and getting trashed or isn't that the thing that they're kind of searching for meaning, but it's like just chill out, like stop trying to look for meaning, just kind of enjoy the ride kind of thing.
Mm.
I mean, again, interpretations,
I don't
right?
know what the point was, to be honest. There, I mean, that was
I
the
don't think
point.
it was
That
right.
was the
I
point,
think that's
right?
the thing. I don't know if there is. I don't know if a point is to be derived from
Mm.
it,
Mm. Yeah.
which for
Yeah.
you seems to be a waste of time.
Yeah, it was absolutely 100% a waste of my time. So, but I am glad you were able to get something out of it. So at least, and I know as other people do, it was still quite highly, rated, and people had good reviews of it and stuff, but I felt almost nothing to like about this. So
Hmm. Right.
yeah.
Not even singing along to Just Like Eddie by Haim,
Huh?
because they got a little portable 7-inch player, which is quite a
Yeah.
nifty
Well,
little
King of the
player.
Road happened at like 2 hours and 53 minutes. Finally
No, not the
that's
King of the Road. The Just Like Eddie. They sing along to the
yeah.
Heinz song.
Yeah, I didn't know that song, so
If you remember,
yeah.
we watched Telstar, right? The Joe Meek film a long
Right.
time ago.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. But I
yeah,
didn't know. I didn't remember that song. So
right.
yeah. So
Um,
anyway, yeah, it was just again, it was. I'm just not a fan of these movies for all the reasons that this movie is. Right? I have
right.
no patience for it, and it was fucking 3 hours. Like fuck. Like yeah, it was.
Did you notice one thing that I was quite impressed by? Like you said, is the late Robbie Muller, who was an amazing cinematographer. So yes, of course, it does look fantastic. But as well as just looking fantastic, did you notice there were a few bits in there of like just general kind of in terms of timing and things like pulling off a shot. There's some really remarkable bits. There's like a bit where the the truck's driving alongside the train that he's on, and then
Mm,
you get the point of view from him in the train and him in the truck, and the
mm,
internet between the two.
right.
I thought that's, I mean, that's, if nothing else, that's like really top fucking filmmaking. Like stuff
Mm.
like that doesn't happen
Yeah.
by mistake.
As I said, I thought the cinematography was quite good. So
Right.
good on the DP, or I don't know how many cameras they were using, if they're just using the one or whatever. But yeah, that I think was quite good. It was quite beautiful film, and I know I looked up and he said
But
that
also
he
the
made
logistics of it is what I mean, not
yeah,
just
and he made it black and white
yeah.
because he thought that it looked more realistic than color, or maybe in
Hmm.
the 70s that's true, whatever. But yeah, but just as a film, it was not my cup of tea. Let's just say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently also inspired by the photography of Walker Evans, right? Walker Evans was this famous Depression era
Hmm.
photographer. Like
Okay.
he's famous for capturing a lot of Dust Bowl imagery
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So, and you can see
Small
that.
town America
Yeah,
stuff.
you can see that because it's the other thing of Wim Wenders as well, is even though on the one hand he's a deeply German filmmaker, and he's one of the leading lights of this German Nouvelle Vague and all that, but he's clearly fascinated with Americana,
Hmm.
right? Which is kind of an essential ingredient of the road movie, I think, because there's
Hmm.
not that many places where the road movie seems to be like, it's almost, I suppose you could. I mean, there are other large spaces in the world. I suppose Australia, you'd like the Mad Maxy kind of
Hmm.
thing. But I don't. But then lots of those countries just have huge spaces with nothing in, right? Like you have the
Hmm.
interior of Australia and large parts of Russia and like China. So America seems to be like the place for road movies, because you can
Hmm.
go east to west, north south, and you're always going to come along something after a while, right? There's
Hmm.
not
Sure. Yeah.
maybe that much in terms of just desolation, like nothing there
Hmm.
at all. So the Americana of it is kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's like talking to a wall.
Of this movie?
I think,
It's
yeah,
not American. I mean, it's not even in America. It's German, right? So I mean,
no, but it feels like they're always talking about, well, they talk a lot about American stuff, right? And
uh-huh.
they come across that house
Right.
yeah, no, I feel that this film is a lot. Well, there's a lot of a cinema in it as well, right? Like there's a love of. So obviously, he's the projectionist going up and down.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff about cinema, and there's I don't know. It just feels to me like Wim Wenders is like, I think when he finally got to the US and did like Paris, Texas, I feel as if that's almost uh like a goal. I don't know if he even was aware that he needed to do it, but I think Wim
Right.
Wenders needed to go and shoot in America.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you think it like this one was like a I want it was like a wish fulfillment for to be in America.
Yeah, I think there's definitely elements in it, but also there's a lot of they talk about it. There's also a little bit of kind of sadness about it as well,
Mm.
like how we've been taken over by Americanization.
Mm.
There's kind of a push and a pull,
Mm.
right? There's a fascination, well, which I understand that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it works in terms of because obviously Canada is not America, but some people kind of consider it, like just an extension of. But like when you were growing up, was America an alien place for you, or did it feel like, oh, it's kind of similar to here?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, probably, I guess I'd say it probably felt similar because I mean, I was watching like American TV and, and like everything, most of the pop culture we consumed was all American. And so
But yeah,
that's,
me too. But
yeah, yeah.
it still
So,
felt far away, right? But I'm just wondering if it
yeah.
felt less
But I
far.
mean, I live fairly close to the border too. And so I don't think it was, I mean, I hadn't really gone into America, but I don't think it felt like, it felt close. It felt like similar to what we were. So,
It didn't
yeah.
feel exotic in any way.
No, I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay, because it certainly
I
would.
mean, mo most of our culture was kind of like is like a mix of British and American kind of mixed together anyway. So it feels, I think British culture and American culture is far enough away.
Hmm.
It's different enough that it would feel exotic.
Yes,
Whereas
yeah.
I don't think Canadians have like a strong enough culture to feel so exotic from America, right? So I think it's yeah.
But British culture probably feels a little bit more exotic too.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Even though it's because it's geographically farther, I think probably. So
right.
yeah.
No, so I definitely grew up feeling that kind of weird fascination with the United States, and then like
Mm.
I can remember my parents kind of now in retrospect, I kind of understand it. Like so, for instance, when I was growing up, you
Mm.
would have now I look back and um especially the 70s, well, 60s, 70s, 80s, there was a lot of quite remarkable, like original programming in UK, like
Right.
BBC, obviously, but other
Mm.
channels as well. I mean, there was a lot of just that, like a lot of great original TV dramas and a lot of great documentary stuff, like a wealth of just really fucking great stuff, which now is I'm keen to try and find on
Mm.
archived on places like YouTube and stuff like stuff I'd kill to see now. And but I'd be watching crap like the A Team or something like that. And I remember
Right.
my parents being slightly exasperated and hearing that phrase, what's this American crap or what's this young crap you're watching? I'd hear that a lot. And when I was a kid, I was like, oh, frankly, I want to watch some car chases, and when I was a kid. But it's interesting now that I get older, I can slightly sympathize with it's kind of a bit like pearls before swine, right?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean we did have some like uh Canadian content, of course.
Hmm.
Was still a lot of Canadian content. Especially music. We had more I know music was really I know like the radio in general was always we had this thing called the CRTC, which is the Canadian Radio and Television Commission, I think, whatever, where TV and radio had to have like a certain percentage of Canadian content.
Right,
Like
right,
every hour had to be so much, that we weren't allowed to, because I think that was kind of keep us just from becoming America, basically, right? Because
right,
yeah,
right.
because they have a very strong culture and it's very close to us geographically, so it's
Yeah,
easy to lose
yeah.
ourselves, right? So, but yeah, but I still felt that there was a difference, but I thought it was definitely closer to us than say British culture was, right? I guess, right?
Mm,
So,
mm.
but yeah, but usually, at least where I was from, of course, we had very little money, so for the most part, like at least movies and TV, the Canadian stuff usually was the crap stuff, right? Because yeah, I mean there was some good stuff, But generally speaking, be like, oh, I wouldn't watch it because it was Canadian. I was like,
Right,
it's like
right,
this is,
right,
yeah, I doubt
right.
this is gonna be good. So yeah. So it was, yeah. So it was similar, but I don't think I had my parents saying like, oh, what is this crap American stuff?
Right.
Watch the Canadian stuff. They're like that didn't happen in Canada.
Okay.
So
Is
yeah,
is is some of I'm just kidding. I know we've gone way off here, but I'm
yeah.
kind of curious. Is some of that stuff like that you would have just poo-pooed back in the day? Like, have you since kind of heard about things from like Canadian culture from when you were a kid, which is like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to see that. Or have you had that
Yeah,
experience?
well, I mean, as a I'm a fan of comedy, and some of the most famous comedy was there's two big ones, which was the SCTV
Hmm.
and Kids in the Hall, and two really big kind of funny like very famous sketch comedy shows and from Canada. A lot of famous Canadian comedians, and I don't think I watched either of them when I was young because I just it wasn't. I would always watch like Saturday Night Live or any of the American stuff, right? So, and but there's like super highly regarded even by American comedians. So it was sort of like a I wish I had watched that stuff back when I was younger. So I think so it would have been.
How about things like did you have um like what do you have like what would have been your equivalent of like like a state um channel like the BBC or something like that?
Hmm? A
Like the
state
BBC,
channel?
yeah, like subsidized by taxes and like no
Oh, well, we had like
TV.
like we had like local TV and local TV. We had a local TV station, and
But
we
would
had
there
like
have been
PBS.
a national one? Is there like a national non-commercial channel like NHK here or BBC in the UK? Do you have
Um,
like I suppose PBS is in the States, right? Is
yeah, we had a kind of we had like a TV Ontario, which was like it was like a provincial
okay.
channels of that. So yeah, we had stuff like that, I
I
guess.
was just
But
wondering, did you have things like did you have like commissioned original like teleplays and stuff like that, dramas and things?
probably, but again, as I said, I if it was Canadian, I pretty much avoided it. So
Okay.
yeah,
No, it's just
yeah,
because it
yeah.
strikes me as something now that maybe would probably be of interest to you now,
Be of
right?
interest. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Because that's what I found going back is just the amount of stuff is almost overwhelming. Right? I didn't realize that we produced quite so much original program, which is seems to be extremely. I've seen it like tip of the iceberg, and some of it's just extraordinary, right? And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if Canada might have a similar, slightly kind of forgotten legacy.
Probably some. I mean, I'm less aware of it as you are, but probably not as much as the British because we just had less money, I think, right? So I think, um, yeah, but I think it's there, but it's probably
Yeah,
not as,
yeah, they
and it's
probably
not as
still
easy to
have.
find anymore. So
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if anyone's, because I know that the National Film Board of Canada has a YouTube channel and they dig up some interesting things. There's some really good documentaries I've seen on there, and
hmm.
because, like, for instance, I know like David Cronenberg, for example, is a big name to come out of Canada. He would have done a couple of episodes of this show called Peep Show, and you're just wondering, like, well, I wonder what the other episodes of that the non-Cronenberg ones by less famous filmmakers. Obviously, someone else made that stuff, right? So I'm just wondering, oh, maybe that's
Not the Peep Show from Britain.
no. This was back in the 70s. This was
Oh,
kind
okay.
of like we had, Play for Today and stuff, like commissioned original teleplays.
Hmm.
Where it's in television of it's the writer that's kind of has precedence over the director, maybe,
Hmm.
like writer driven stuff, kind of like the
Yeah.
theater. And yeah, so in the UK we had lots of shows like that, like uh this Play for Day and Screen One, that just they'd have seasons and they'd have like runs of 6 weeks or whatever, and every week would be an original teleplay, and it was by up and coming or already well known kind of writers, either for the screen or for the theater and stuff like that. I feel as if Canada probably does have that, maybe smaller, but probably does have that legacy, and be interesting to dig into it, or if someone's already digging into it, because I'm sure there must be gems in there, stuff that you might enjoy even more than Kings of the Road, Ron.
Probably. I don't think that's hard. Yeah. Way to
So,
bring it back.
so there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I apologize if you felt like you were talking to a brick wall, as you said.
No,
It's not
well,
what I
no, no,
mean. I'm just saying I don't have much to say. It just I
no, no.
really didn't like it.
At a
So
certain point, I
yeah.
just thought, yeah, there's no point. Like, yeah.
Well, like so, but you didn't go into why you thought it was not as good.
Oh, well, I think I just again with this kind of thing, it's very personal. I think it's a matter of fine tuning more than anything else. I told the anecdote before, about Harry Dean Stanton, when he saw the rough cut of Pirate Texas and thought, this is fucking awful, and and then just saw it after it had just been edited, just and it was just perfect. It was just so I think this kind of thing is yeah, it depends. So this film captured me every now and again, and then it lost me for a little bit, and then it kind of got me again, and it lost me a little bit, and it wasn't an entirely hypnotic, absorbing experience. I think the very best kind of role, or in fact, any movies can be. So, but no, I was very, like I said, it stood out to me. Some of the camera logistics and stuff and how they pulled stuff off, I thought was really impressive. And yes, Robbie Muller's photography is. I thought I really liked the actors in it as well. Actually, I particularly like Lisa Kreutz. She's the woman who works in the porno theater.
Okay, yeah.
I thought she was really good. Yeah, so I think it just wasn't. It didn't quite. It's not in, but like I said, it's when you're in this territory, then it becomes very specific to your own tastes. Like I said, some people.
I was also wondering how much of it was like a movie, like a fictional movie, and how much of it was just like found footage or documentary footage. Like do you think that these guys were? I mean, with the exception of their jobs, like do you think that they were really playing far from their own just personal lives? Maybe they just went on a real road trip, and then he just happened to capture some stuff.
Well, it's a bit of both, right? So
because there's no script, right? So
no, apparently it was almost entirely improvised.
Yeah. So in that case, I feel like it was just two guys. They just, Vim and the DP and the guys just went on a real road trip, and then they just happened to catch some stuff, right? So like,
yeah, sort of.
like,
yeah.
How much of it was character work, and how much of it was just these two guys on a real road trip?
Well, I think the difference being is they're both trained actors who've had long careers, right? So it's not. I don't think it's them playing themselves. But no, obviously improvisation is a huge, which is why it surprises me every now and again when you have these, when you do have these sequences that must have required, just pinpoint timing.
Oh, right.
I'm always surprised to see that in the middle of something that was largely improvised, because obviously at some point they had to stop the improvising and like, okay, shut up. We got to get our shit together to get this shot, right?
Right.
And then, yeah, so that kind of just the logistics of making it kind of fascinate. Because there's a lot of like, because the king of this kind of thing, I suppose, is Mike Leigh, right? I can't remember if we've done a Mike Leigh film on this show or not.
I think so.
Yeah, we definitely need to do a Mike Leigh film one day, because I'm a huge fan of Mike Leigh. But his process is that makes, like, not many people make films like Mike Leigh just because they can't afford to do it, right? Because the Mike Leigh process is, you have an idea for a film, you don't even have a title for a film, you don't have a script for a film, you cast it, and then you have lengthy rehearsals, like months.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's like a theater piece sometimes.
Yeah, so. And then you write it. Like after it's locked in, you write it, and then you don't deviate from the script. So it has that unique blend of seeming like extremely realistic and made up off the cuff, but actually they've worked really, really, really hard.
Hard to get it.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Mike Leigh took years to get to the point where people would trust him enough to do it, right? And there's not
Right,
many
yeah.
other people who could do it.
Mhm.
So, but that seems to be the ideal way of going around it, really, is that way. But yeah, I mean, not many people are going to be indulged like Mike Leigh because they don't
Mhm.
have his track record, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
anyway, we've strayed. We've gone on our own meandering
Road trip.
because we are kings of the road.
Yeah.
God, look how pleased Ron is. So
I'm not
anyway,
looking forward to having to react to this. So.
yeah. So yeah, reaction. How are we gonna? Actually, I've got loads of ideas, but yeah. You may. I'm sure you'll find a way out. If you could find a way out of Dog Star Man, then you can get out of any panic room, right?
Sure.
So until then, we leave Ron with a spring in his step. Until the next time. Bye.
Bye bye.